Some faces and names are familiar, like Sitting Bull, the chief whose warriors defeated and massacred this man, George Armstrong Custer, 16 years after this portrait was made. Others are not as well remembered today.
The individuals who you see pictured along this wall are all important players in that development.
Curator Frank Goodyear chose the portraits of more than 100 men and women for the exhibit Faces of the Frontier.
If you look beyond the myth, you come to understand that people from many different places, different backgrounds, different fields of endeavor and ambitions converge to recreate the American West.
Some had a huge impact, like this man, Joseph Glidden. He invented barbed wire, and it cut up the open landscape of the West into cattle ranches. And Theodore Roosevelt, who spent time ranching in North Dakota before he became president in 1901.
When Roosevelt became president, he transformed this love of the West into concrete legislation, setting aside lands for national parks, national forests, initiating a vigorous national debate about conservation.
You might not recognize this businessman, but people around the world know his name.
Levi Strauss comes to recognize that great fortunes can be made during the gold rush by supplying miners with the goods that they need, and realizing that a design for a waist overall is really very popular among the miners and makes a tremendous fortune with his 501 jeans.
There are explorers like John Wesley Powell, the first white man to navigate the entire length of the Colorado River, artists like Charles Russell, and photographers like Edward Muybridge.
He was an extraordinary landscape photographer, and his images and photographs by other important landscape photographers definitely resonated with audiences in the East who couldn't imagine the scale and the beauty, the grandeur of some of these landscapes.
Writers, like Samuel Clemens, gave Easterners a literary portrait of the West.
Sam Clemens, who develops the pen name Mark Twain, really is the first individual to bring a kind of Western voice to American literature. His novel Roughing It really provide a larger American public with some of the colorful characters and dramatic stories associated with the West.
The West had its share of colorful characters, criminals like Jesse James, and the so-called Wild Bunch, with bank robbers Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and entertainers like Annie Oakley, who was known for her marksmanship, and the man she worked for, William Cody, or Buffalo Bill, whose Wild West show toured abroad. The exhibit spans 80 years during a time of great change in the West and the United States as a whole, Goodyear says.
One thinks of the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad, the acquisition of more than 500,000 square miles of land into the territory, a series of well-publicized battles between native and non-native peoples, and the birth of the modern-day environmental movement.
Faces of the Frontier shows the people behind those changes. Susan Logue, VOA News, Washington.